Hey guys, what's up? Redactions here and welcome back to this brand new video. And today we are at a very wet and rainy circuitpark Bergen to do something interesting. Because today we are testing the ID Engines concept. And you're probably wondering what it is, don't worry, I'll get to explain it. But basically it is the Dutch 4-stroke series and which is unique to the Netherlands for now. They are planning to expand internationally. But for now it's just in the Netherlands, but still it's a very cool concept and I think you guys might be interested in this. And also guys, after a full season of doing rain dances, today, literally the first time after my season is done, it's raining. So yeah. But I just did a track walk with another driver and the track is fucking slippery. Wait, let me just show you. I don't know how well you guys are able to see it, but in this flat-out left-hander, there's literally just a layer of rubber on the inside, which creates an enormous hydrophobic layer, and that's the dark spot. So that's where the water is just sliding off towards the inside, and that is super slippery. So that's going to be interesting. But then on the outside, because it's Bergen of course, we have all this stuff, all this rubbish, which is also going to be slippery. So yeah, that's going to be quite a challenge, let's say that. So basically this thing is completely organized by Kart Academy, which is basically ID Engines factory team, and yeah, that's going to be very exciting. So let's see how today goes. Alright people, so this is the thing that we'll be starting out today with. ID Engines Senior, should be 165 kilos, but because I'm a fat bitch, yeah, I'm 170 something. It's a 200cc 4-stroke engine capable of similar top speeds to the Rotax Max engine. It has 24 brake horsepower, so that's a little bit less, but because it's a 4-stroke of course, the power is developed, or it kicks in a very different way. So yeah, I'm really curious to see how this goes. We have quite a lot of guest drivers today, so let's have some fun out there. Yes, what you're seeing there is actually fire. Yeah, that's a first. Never had fire before. Luckily, it wasn't that serious, we fixed it, and after that we could finally have our proper first session. Anyways, after that little incident, it was time to hit the track properly. This is the ID Engines Senior Kart. A little bit more info about this thing. I've already told you the technical aspects of ID Engines, now let's talk about another super important thing. Accessibility. This class was created to make professional level karting more accessible, both by reducing the costs and the unique form of running this specific series. Now I will warn you guys, I will be throwing a lot of information at you over the next few minutes, but please bear with me. This might change the way you look at karting forever. Let's say you want to race in the ID Engines Senior category. You give a call to ID Engines and they will send you this document, which is a quotation for buying an ID Engines Junior or Senior kart. The chassis you will be getting is a Paralin, which has been especially designed for the ID Engines classes. And if you don't crash it, this thing will last you for more than one season, which is about more than one season longer than many other brands. The total amount of this quotation will be about 7,500 euros including taxes, which is quite a considerable amount of course, and you might be thinking, heck, this is not cheap at all, this video is clickbait, blah 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 blah. But wait, let's have a think. If you were to buy a brand new OTK Senior Road Tax card, that would cost you about 9 grand. And that is excluding stuff like tires, lap timer, wet rims, wet tires, etc. The 7,500 euros on this quotation covers all of that. But wait, there's more. If you looked closely, you will have seen that the engine is only 1,100 euros. And that is because when you buy it, it's not actually yours, which is an idea they stole from Ferrari. What you will get when you quote-unquote buy this engine is a lease contract. This will be 1260 a year and it includes full service and advice. So for about the third of the price of a brand new Rotax Max engine, you'll have a 4-stroke, 24 brake horsepower alternative. Now in Rotax, which is what I normally run, basically no one uses their own engines in races for a very simple reason. A standard Rotax Max engine is not quick enough. Because of this, basically everyone rents an engine from an engine tuner, which can cost up to 350 bucks a day. ID Engines has found a solution for this too. Engine lottery. When you get to a race weekend, you will get a random engine from an existing pool of race engines which have all been made as equal as possible by ID Engine. So everyone will have the exact same amount of power under their right foot. Now let's go back to that quotation for a little bit. More specifically, the rolling cart itself. It is, like I said, a custom built Paralin chassis. And if you decide to run this custom Paralin chassis, you are not allowed to change stuff like axles, wheel types, and many other different parts are all standardized, so everyone has the same opportunities. If you would like to run a different chassis in the ID engines, that's allowed too. That means that you will be in the open class instead of in the Paralin class. Now let's say you've just watched this video and are thinking, that's all cool and all, but I don't have the right tools, right garage space or the right know-how for taking care of this cart. Well, fair enough, ID Engines has thought of this too, because you can rent a place at the ID Engines HQ. Here they will store and take good care of the cart for you. Because ID Engines is a non-profit concept, the prices are actually quite reasonable. And even if you do want to do everything by yourself, you can buy a toolbox for about 350 bucks, which includes literally every tool you need. So yeah, this really is the most accessible way to get into karting as someone who is on a tight budget and or has no previous experience in karting. And it works. I've seen people who have not had any previous experience with karting do well in ID Engines. I personally think this concept is a really fresh take on karting and I'm curious to see how the future of this will turn out. And yes, even you watching this video, if you've never done karting or anything like that, you can give ID Engines a try too. Because as the title and thumbnail of this video says, testing an ID Engines kart is free. Free? The only thing you have to pay for is getting to the track in your own car and the track fee. Simply send an email to this email address and check out their website for more information. All of it can be found in the description. So after a 25-minute session, I came back into the pits. Let's see my first reaction as a senior Rotax Max driver to this thing.
Alrighty people, after our small little fire, we had the first session. Yeah, it's totally different to what I'm used to, especially the tires. It's a little bit difficult to get comfortable with the kart. Of course, I'm used to the Tony kart, and it was a little bit slippery, especially in the beginning. But after that, we actually set a decent lap time. There are some other ID senior drivers testing out, but they're on different tires because we're using last year's tires. And these are quite a bit of the pace, so yeah, I think it's going quite well. Also, we're on the completely stock setup, so not even different sprockets. So I think it's going well. And the most important thing is it's fun, and when it works, when the thing works, it actually it's decently fun to drive. So yeah, I think, in my honest opinion, if you are looking for something that's a little bit faster than rental karting, but not quite on the expensive level of Rotax, I think this is quite the thing for you. But yeah, we'll get into more details on that soon. First, let's go warm up a little bit.
Ik ga wel eerst even een paar rondjes echt de lijnen zoeken nog.
Camera. Oh, wat leuk. Ja, mooi hè.
Alrighty people, welcome aboard the third and last session in the ID Engine Senior Kart. As you can see, it's still absolutely hailing and raining down. It's not hailing actually, it's just raining. But yeah, here we find ourselves behind the 275, which is another testing kart, which was the girl you saw just a few shots ago. Yeah, it was her first time in like a semi-real or real race kart, and she was doing really well actually, because she came from rentals. I've known her from racing in rentals a few years back. Here we tried to go for the move up the inside, which works until yeah, we break on the rubber lights and boom, we end up sliding off. If you're familiar with karting, in the wet it is super important to look for your own grip. That's why you see me drive around the ideal lines, as I do here. I take the long way around, which also in this specific case was more important, because for a testing day like this, the kart is put on the standard setup, so that means no extra grip at the front. Also no wet gear ratio, which is of course super important, because if you are in the wrong gear, gear ratio, it's kind of like when you're in a car, when you're like one gear too high. So maintaining some corner speed was super important. Here we actually started a lap that was pretty decent, so right on board with me. Here you can see we're taking a lot of curb into T1, then taking the long way around for T2 to take as much speed as possible, and absolutely destroying the curb on T3. Here you can see me locking up the brakes intentionally, taking the long way around once again to keep up that speed. I noticed that with this thing it was super important to keep up the corner speed, because of course we were not running the proper wet gear ratio. Here we decided to take the short way for once, which actually was working out quite well. One advantage of running a gear that is too low is that you actually have decent traction, so you can get on the power on the slippery part of the circuit whilst you are doing less meters. Here again you can see we can go for the inside. Here we can take the outside to just keep up that momentum. And then for here we also decide to take a very wide line and got a late apex, as you can see there, not touching the white line because that's slippery. Here we again intentionally lock up the rear brakes to make the rear tires heat up, take a lot of curb to aid the kart in rotation, then coming up to this very scary corner which is flat in the drive, absolutely not in the wet, take a lot of curb to aid the rotation, get on the power straight away, and that is a quick lap in the wet, which is actually 1:52, which is about 2.5 seconds slower. Oh, and here we take another big off, but yeah, that's about 2.5 seconds slower. Oh, that was a very close call actually. But yeah, it's about 2 to 2.5 seconds slower, which is okay, because we were not running the correct tires. We were just running some old tires that they had lying around. And yeah, I think that was decent for the first day. Let's end our little stint with the ID engine senior and move on to the next thing.
Alright, so yeah, that last session was pretty okay. Managed to improve by almost 2.5 seconds. Part of that was the track, but it was also definitely a bit of driving. And yeah, that was fun. But now, ladies and gentlemen, onto the real stuff. Boom, here we have it. ID engine shifter. Almost the same engine as the other one. 41 brake horsepower and a top speed of about 130? Yeah, something like that. And also, of course, brakes at the front, brakes at the rear, flappy pedal gearbox, so that's also unique to this thing. You know, a KZ has just a normal lever, but we have flappy pedal gearbox, so that's going to be very cool. So yeah, let's see what we can do with this thing. I'm really curious. I really am. Will be the first time driving something with gears around the track, so let's see what we can do.
So, first thoughts on the ID engine shifter? What a machine. That 41 brake horsepower really kicks you in the back when you put your foot down. And then when the power runs out, all you have to do is pull a lever and it starts all over again. This was the first time I've driven a kart that was faster than a Rotax, and I absolutely loved every second of it. The way it felt in the corners, the acceleration, and most of all, the braking. Because this is a shifter kart, it has brakes on all wheels, which means lockups can happen. Now of course, when you only have brakes at the rear, you want the rear tires to lock up. But if your front tires lock up, you'll go straight into the barriers. And I'm gonna be brutally honest, I wasn't fully convinced by the senior kart. But this thing, oh my god, this thing is a monster. And remember, if you want to have a go in this, it's free. Just send them an email and they'll arrange it for you. Again, email address is in the description. Now if you're wondering how it's possible to do this all for free, an interview with the person behind the ID Engines concept will also come in this video, so stay tuned. Anyways, after a full 25-minute session of spinning, trial and error, testing out different things and just all around having fun, I came back in. And I think my face here says enough.
What a machine! Yeah, that's completely different than Rotax and than single speed. Now you suddenly have to think about a lot more things. I was constantly getting lost in what gear I was. I was accidentally shifting sometimes. Also, sometimes it didn't stay in gear. So when I was in 5th or 6th, and then it just went to neutral for some reason. So yeah, a bit strange, but yeah, that's properly fun. That's fun. It's a lot more fun than the senior one, if I'm honest. So yeah, this really is a machine. I really like it. Now we're just going to adjust the pedals because they were a bit too close to me, and well. Have a nice bit of sausage, but anyway, so yeah, we're changing the pedals because they were too close. Alright guys, welcome in the ID Engine's truck, and here we have the man who made it all possible, Arthur.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Well, this is Arthur. He is a big fan of the sport, and well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
My name is Arthur Dontje. I'm 63 years old, and in the early days, you don't believe it, I was also a go-kart driver from the 70s. Not a good one, not like my sons. And in the 90s, in 92, my little son Indy was born, so that's 30 years ago. And the second son, Milan, was born, and then I said I start up go-karting again. And then I started up my own racing team. So I started in a 4-stroke with the boys, and after that we went to the Rotax. We were Rotax Mania guys, and it was a really nice time to do. Yeah, we raced a lot, and afterwards the two boys went car racing.
So it's a big racing family, and well, you can feel the passion when you look at what cars we have outside. If you look at this, you can really tell that this is just pure passion for the sport. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. Arthur, what does a day like this cost for you if you want to try this?
That's very easy. You only pay some for the track, and that's it.
Yeah, and the rest is depends on how much you decide to eat, how many tosties you decide to get. Yeah,
yeah, that's also the food you must pay in the canteen. But okay, yeah, it's very cheap. And I think now what I learned in those days, go-karting is the meaning of go-karting. Nobody knows. When you had no money for car racing, you start go-kart racing. And nowadays, go-kart racing is more expensive than car racing, so that goes the wrong way. So what we did is that we said, okay, we start up the rookie class, one of the biggest classes now in the Benelux. So we have more than 1,000 units sold, so that's unbelievable. So for the youngsters with a small 4-stroke Chinese engine, they have a great time for €14.99, so that's nothing. So then we start up an ID engine, and ID stands for Indy Dontje, the owner of the factory of the ID engine. And that's an engine, 4-stroke engine, and we have the junior with 14 horsepower, we have the senior with 24 horsepower, and we have the shifter with 41 horsepower. And so we have now a total concept, so they can start with 7 years old, and they can quit 90 years old.
Well, if someone, I don't think someone of 90 years old is fit enough for the shifter, because when I just drove it, it is kind of physical, and I think that's also a bit of the point, that it is really the highest level that you can get in the 4-stroke, right? Am I right?
Yes, that's right. If you to give you an idea, price-wise, it's very cheap. You only pay less than €4,000 ex VAT. Leasing concept, so you lease the go-kart, you lease the chassis. So that's very cheap. That's the way how we think. Then we make a total concept ready for racing. That you are, if you have done the shifter for 2 years, then you are ready for the car racing.
Yeah, I understand that, because I think the shifter class is more close to cars than it is to anything else I've ever driven before. So maybe, who knows, in a few years I will be in cars as well. Who knows?
No, I think that you must try, if you have the time next year. You have a very busy season, so you're invited to us to have the experience on the race day. And then you get also go-kart is racy now. Today you have a rental one, that's also what we do. Why we do that? To make it easier to go in the sport. If you want to go in the sport, you pay a lot of money for this and a lot of money for that.
No, exactly. Well, I think we have a little bit of an idea now what this day is about.
And they must come pass by, because it's very, very nice to come over. We have a very nice showroom, and we have a museum. You've been there last week.
Yes.
And that's very impressive to see all those old go-karts from the 60s. Yeah, and I can explain it on a better way. And you see how it grows. To give you an idea, we started up 6 years with 26 people. And nowadays next year we have 140 drivers. And we are the biggest competition from the Benelux with only Dutch drivers.
If we continue to grow like this, who knows where we will be in 5 years?
It's unbelievable. Then I want to start up next year in Belgium, and in 24 we want to go to England.
Okay, well, thank you for all of the information. If I'm completely dead honest, the senior was a little bit underwhelming, but the shifter, that completely made the day.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yes. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
After our little chat with Arthur, time to have some more fun out on track. I felt like I was definitely starting to understand how to drive this thing compared to a Rotax. Because we have front brakes, it is super important to keep the steering wheel straight on the braking and to be smooth on the pedal. That way you minimize the chance of getting a lockup. Then when you get to the corner, try to rotate the kart as quickly as you can so that you can get on the power in a straight line. If you are still turning whilst you're getting on the power, you will get a huge amount of wheel spin, which will of course make your exit slower. Now, this is also the case in Rotax, but in the ID shifter it is even more important because you have a lot more torque and a lot more power right as you get on the throttle. You know, a Rotax has a big dead zone in its power curve, so if you get on the power while the revs are in that rev range, you won't have any power at all and you can just get on the power and get away with turning while you're getting on the power because you don't have any power, so you won't get any wheel spin. But with this thing, 41 brake horsepower is right at your disposal as you get on the power, so get on the power while you're in a straight line. Take it from me, please. Also, the braking is tricky to get used to. The movement of the weight around the kart feels very different and floaty sometimes, and I don't really know why that is. With me in it, the kart was over 190 kilograms, so logic should say that it will be planted more on the ground, but I felt like it was a little bit more floaty on the braking compared to a Rotax. Luckily, the Maxxis tires we were running actually gave quite a bit of confidence out on the track. And also guys, by the way, you should totally follow ID Engines on Instagram. Their username is on screen right now. Also, they have their own YouTube channel. In the pinned comment you can find their video of this day, in which they interviewed me of course. After another fun session of 25 minutes, time to return to the pits.
Well guys, we just had another session and that one actually went really well. We managed to do a 59.8, which I think is decently quick. We were definitely quicker than the Rotaxes, which is, I think this thing is about a second quicker, but there's definitely some more time to be found because of course I've never driven a shifter kart before and the thing I'm struggling with is the acceleration out of the corners. You know, with the Rotax, because it has a little bit less power, you can drive like more rounded lines, and with the shifter, because it has so much torque and so much power, because it's always in the correct rev range, if you get on the power whilst you are still turning, the back end will come round. And the thing is, with a Rotax, if you get on the power while you're still turning, you can get away with it, but with this you definitely can't. So that's the thing I'm struggling with now a little bit. But yeah, we have one more session. Let's see how that one goes.
So, the end of the day is nearing. Whilst we're out on the ID shifter again, time to review the day and give my totally and brutally honest opinion about the entire ID Engines concept. I personally think that the foundation of the ID Engines concept has been a good thing for karting. It is a great way for new people to enter the sport who have either a low budget, not enough time or not the right knowledge about the sport. It creates an entry level stepping stone into the world of karting. For me, the senior ID was a little bit underwhelming. I was of course used to Rotax, but I shouldn't really compare it to that because it's not the same thing. Maybe a tip for the ID Engines team. When you're giving more experienced drivers a chance to test the karts, maybe put on a little bit of a setup, or at least the correct tires, because I feel like I've not really felt the full potential of the senior kart. I really did have a lot of fun, but the old and incorrect tires didn't really give me the grip that I was supposed to have. Also, a wet gear ratio would have been very nice and it would have given me a better idea of what this thing is capable of. The shifter on the other hand, absolutely blew me away. That thing is fast, has a ton of grip and the braking is out of this world. Even for an experienced Rotax driver like myself, this was a completely new experience which totally blew me away. I would definitely like to do more of this in the future. So enough about the karts. My verdict about the entire concept, so the way that it is handled and paid for, is this. If you are a karting driver who doesn't really have the funds to race in Rotax, ID Engines Rocky, Junior or Senior is the thing for you. With this you can get to know the basics of the sport at a decent price and with a lot of guidance. The shifter class is an amazing final step on this ladder, which can be enjoyed by both the young and upcoming talents and experienced drivers looking for an extra challenge. Also, if you do have the budget to race in Rotax, starting out in ID Engines is still not a bad idea. I then recommend staying in the ID concept for 1 or 2 years before switching to Rotax or X30. The reason I'm saying this is the fact, and please don't kill me for this. But I personally believe that the levels of racing are still better in Rotax or X30, even on national level. But who knows what will happen in a few years. Maybe it will be the other way around one day. I think the ID engines concept is a fresh breath of air for the sport, and definitely needed to keep it alive in these difficult times. To end the day, let's ride on board for one pretty decent lap in the ID engines shifter around Circuitpark Bergen.
So guys, that was the day with the ID concept, and if you look behind me, you see that I have time traveled to the future in Genk. And that is because, yet again, I had to be here for some reasons related to next year, but more on that will come later this week. Anyways, I was really pleasantly surprised by the ID concept, especially by the shifter. That's a really cool kart. I really enjoyed it, and I think for every Rotax driver, driving the ID shifter is it has added value. You learn a lot from it, and it's just a good kart. It's just fun. Anyways guys, with that also comes the end of this video. Now if you enjoyed it, then please consider hitting those like and subscribe buttons. You know you really help me when you do that. Also, keep an eye out on the channel for some new news about 2023. It's coming, and I think you guys are gonna love it. Now if you haven't seen the previous bit of news about next year, go check out this video right here on screen. This video however is done, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.